Picture this, you are locked up in a prison and the only thing standing between you and freedom is a few walls, some very serious guards, and, believe it or not, a bedsheet and a peanut butter. Sounds like something straight out of a cartoon, right? Well, buckle up, because today we are diving into one of the craziest, most ridiculous escape stories ever. The story of the man who escaped prison with peanut butter? Yes, you heard that right, and you won't believe how this all went down. Now you might be thinking, how on earth do you escape from prison with a bedsheet and peanut butter? Let's go back to the year 2015, in a prison in New York. It all starts with a man named Richard Matt. Richard Matt wasn't your average criminal. He was a tough guy who had been convicted of some really serious crimes. But what made him even more interesting was his ability to outsmart people. And boy, did he outsmart the prison guards. But before we get to the escape, let's talk about something important. Prisons aren't exactly like the movies. There is no one-size-fits-all security. Some prisons are super high-tech with cameras everywhere, and some are a little more, well, let's just say they leave room for creativity. And that's where Richard Matt saw an opportunity. Matt had been planning it for months. He didn't try to escape from prison by running through the front door. No. That would be too easy. He came up with a genius plan. He would sneak through the walls. Literally. But here is the twist. He wasn't going to do it all alone. He teamed up with another inmate, David Sweat. And here is where it gets even more bizarre. Remember the peanut butter I mentioned? Well, this wasn't just any peanut butter. Richard Matt used peanut butter to trick the guards into thinking he was still in his cell. But let's break it down exactly how this peanut butter trick worked, because it's both genius and hilarious at the same time. Matt knew that the guards had a pretty predictable schedule. They would do head counts at certain times of the day just to make sure everyone was there, where they should be. It wasn't exactly the most in-depth check. More like a quick look to make sure the inmates weren't, running wide, or I don't know. But Matt saw a window of opportunity. What if, just what if, he could trick the guards into thinking he was still in his cell when he was actually long gone? And not only that, what if he could make it look like he was sleeping in a way that was so convincing that they wouldn't even question it? And here is where the peanut butter comes in. Richard Matt, being the crafty guy that he was, decided to use the one thing that everyone had in the prison. Peanut butter. I mean, who doesn't love a good peanut butter sandwich, right? But instead of spreading it on bread, Matt smeared it on his cell walls. Yep, you heard me right. He coated the walls with peanut butter like it was the world's most bizarre art project. But Matt wasn't just smearing it around randomly. He was using the peanut butter to create the illusion of his own body. He took the gooey peanut butter and shaped it into the form of a person laying down. Arms, legs, head, the whole deal. And to make sure it really looked like him, he probably used some of his bedsheets and other materials to help shape the figure even better. It sounds messy, doesn't it? But honestly, this was pure genius. The guards didn't even realize what was going on. They would come by, looking through the bars, and see what they thought was a person still laying in the bed, perfectly still, probably just snoring away. And remember, these head counts weren't the most thorough. They weren't looking for any signs of a perfect escape plan. The guards walked by, probably half awake themselves, and just said, yep, another inmate snoozing through his time. But in reality, Matt had pulled off one of the most creative and ridiculous tricks in prison history. He had transformed a jar of peanut butter into the ultimate tool for deception. And it worked. Now that the guards were fooled, Matt and Sweat had to move quickly. And here is where the bedsheet comes in. They were able to use the bedsheets to climb through a hole in the wall they had been slowly chiseling away at for weeks. I mean, can you imagine chiseling away at a wall with a spoon or something? Talk about dedication. They crawled through the tunnel, made it through the pipes, and ended up outside the prison walls. And just like that, they were free. But of course, not everything goes according to the plan. While Matt and Sweat were out in the wild, it was not long before the authorities realized something was off. And so the manhunt began. Police searched everywhere, from the woods to the nearby towns, but the escapees were still on the run. But here is the kicker. This story doesn't have a fairy tale ending. In the end, Matt was found, but it didn't happen in the way he probably hoped. He was captured after a few weeks on the run, and sadly he didn't make it to the freedom he dreamt of. As for Sweat, he too was eventually caught. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and watch the next one.